BYD continue their mission to take over the world. Well, kind of. So, last month, October 2024, they built 500,000, 500,000 cars globally. They're building a factory in Hungary. They're starting to build a factory which will be ready to produce cars in Brazil from 2025, not just in China, but they are obviously a Chinese brand, and you'll be familiar with them from the Seal, the Dolphin, the Sealion, which you had recently on the channel, the Atto 3, and now the Sealion 7. 7 does not stand for 7 seats. Let's just get that bit out of the way straight away. The BYD design language continues, so you have this X face across. It's a member of the ocean family, so these are meant to represent waves in the lower part of the air curtain, teardrops on the rear, lights across the back. Still that kind of Seal family nose over the front of the vehicle, and the daytime running lights are not affected. Some cars, when you put on your indicator, one of the daytime running lights will be lost. Not the case on this car, so that's how it works around the front. Couple of battery sizes. There's the capacity, the range up to 505 kilometers, 480 on the smaller battery, which is rear wheel drive. There's an all-wheel drive version, and much like the Seal and Sealion, there's 3 different trims: comfort, design and excellence. And excellence is the top spec, which I don't have Irish prices yet, but in Germany today unveiled, the top spec is €1,000 shy of 60 grand, which is a lot of money. Quite a large wheel size option, so it starts at 19, you can get 20s. There's no 18-inch option, which, okay, you need to fill those fairly large arches, but from a comfort perspective, we'll discuss later, does it have any impact? So on right-hand drive cars, we will have an NFC plate here. You can walk up to the car with your phone, it will unlock it, you can start the car, and all the rest of the stuff that you might expect. The design of this car is interesting. So, the cells of the battery and the battery housing and infrastructure and the frame, the whole thing is part of the body of the car, which means it's 110 millimeters in height, and that's it for the entire battery. So normally a car of this size would probably have to sit a little bit high, especially for extra headroom in the rear with that coupe design. But the design and the architecture of the battery and the chassis and the platform means it doesn't actually need to be that tall, and it helps with aerodynamics and efficiency. Long wheelbase between the front and rear wheels, plenty of space inside, totally flat floor, and the top of the battery is actually what makes the floor pan in the car, so they don't need a separate area. It's clever stuff from BYD, and it shows they're just always thinking a couple of steps ahead. Also, this year is marking the 30th anniversary of them starting up as a battery manufacturing company. Remember, this is a brand that in the mid-noughties decided, hey, let's build cars as well. So they're not new to the game, but they're relatively new to the game compared to some of the traditional brands that you might expect. Ducktail spoiler on the rear of the car, and the idea of this is there's also airflow can pass through the lower section underneath this spoiler. It then hits off this, and the air dissipates down nicely over the back of the car. Let me know if you're getting Volkswagen ID.5 vibes from the sort of the B-pillar back, depending on what angle you look at it. It's a nicer rear, I think, than the Sealion DMI that I showed you recently. This light bar is nice. Again, these are the teardrop, again, an ocean representation there. Huge big BYD badge, not build your dreams though. And this is the speed at which the car can get to 100 kilometers an hour, 4.5 seconds. Although BYD told us lots of times today that their staff have managed to get it to about 4 seconds. Is that enough speed in a family electric SUV? I would definitely think so. From my perspective, if I was to test it out in my car with the kids and herself, people would be shouting at me saying, "What are you at?" You can kick underneath the car. I don't have the key in my hand or on me at the moment, but that will operate for you. So if you don't have that, you can operate the electric tailgate here. And there's actually a better boot than the Sealion, which was quite compromised because of the plug-in hybrid battery layout of the car. So this actually gets 520 litres. If you drop the rear seats, 1789, which is lots and lots of space. There's a couple of speakers. So you've got a sub back here. This is the 12 speaker Donadio or Audio, whatever way you want to pronounce that. They say it's quite a nice experience. They've got soundproof glass in the car, so the whole thing is meant to be a nice package. BYD say it's like bringing your sitting room out into the world with you. A couple of storage options in terms of netting. There's a bit more space beneath here. There's also a 58-litre frunk, so you could actually put your charging cables in the front of the car, or indeed a carry-on size luggage case that you might get onto a Ryanair flight. They say it'll also go in the front, and there is a flexible parcel shelf for your kids' bikes. Glass roof, 2.1 metres squared. Lots of space, lots of light flooding in, and certainly the rear of the car, somewhere BYD have put a lot of thought into this. 3 different adjustability options on this bench, so you can give yourself a bit more space in the rear if you need to, and you can tilt the angle of that seat. The armrest, not something for tablet holder quite, but there's a nice little set of design in terms of how the drinks holders pop out, and you can store bits back here. All models will get heated rear seats in the car, and again this E platform 3.0 has a totally flat floor. I mean, it is an abundance of space for rear passengers. No one is going to have any complaints about this at all. There's a couple of air vents, but you don't get climate control that you can specifically manipulate back here, but look, it's fine. A couple of USB-C charging ports, device holders in the back of your seats, so if you want to chuck a device in like that or just keep it out of the way, you can do that. Now, when you get to the price, again, we don't have Irish prices yet. At under 50, you tolerate some of the plastics in the car, and then up here and stuff is nice, but down here it gets quickly cheaper plastics. At 60 grand, and let's say the Irish version, if they bring the all-wheel drive excellence trim to Ireland, and I'm sure they will, that's definitely going to be more than 60 grand. So forget about your grants, and then that's where I kind of go, that's a lot of money for this interior. It's not quite at that price point, in my opinion. Now, let's talk about the build quality inside the Sealion 7. All the things you touch feel good. Crystal gear shifter, nice high gloss behind sort of what feels like glass. Buttons, some of them are haptic. We have the screen that does its thing, of course. As far as I know, BYD have a patent on that, so I don't think anyone else will be able to do that for quite a while. You got lots of physical buttons, so ergonomically it's all right. These parts of the things that I'm sure are there to represent some part of a sea creature, they look like they should have a texture to them, but actually then they're smooth when you touch. And again, little flippers or fins for the door release going on here, so it all wraps around you in a nice way, and the seats are very comfortable and all that stuff. Then when you go down further to where the USB-C charging ports are, again, it just gets a little bit hard, a little bit plastic. Are these areas you're looking at all the time? No. Are the areas you're even touching all the time? No. But it's kind of my job to poke and prod and have a look around. 50 watt max charging plate here. It looks like there's a little bit of air conditioning or air circulation going on here. Quite a large storage area underneath the armrest. A couple of drinks holders. Apparently they're good for also, that's quite a large bottle. It'll go down deep. But if you have a flat white cup, I think it's designed that it will cope. So you press a button, the whole part pops up. Very James Bond like, and then you push it back down if you want. So that should give you, it won't carry the weight of the bottle, but that should give you a better idea. So you can adjust it up to that height if you need to. That's a good idea, because a lot of time the plastic cup catches and it all gets very, very messy. A couple of modes: sport, eco and comfort. So a couple of switch gears here. 15-inch here, 10-inch for the driver instruments. The top spec will get a head-up display, and this area of the dash, as you can see, sometimes it's kind of pulsing at the moment. There's a little bit of ambient lighting going on. There's 128 different colour combinations for the ambient lighting, if that's the kind of thing you're into, whatever else. But look, it's a welcome addition of a lot of physical stuff. Despite that, you know, for the aircon, the strip is always here. Spotify and Android, or CarPlay and Android I should say, is more integrated than it ever has been into BYD software, so that should be a little bit easier to use. There will be over-the-air updates if you need them. You can obviously set up your timing for your cheapest charging rate at home, because if you do get the larger battery, you're talking 90 kilowatt hours. Multiply that by maybe, if you're getting a rate of 9-10 cent, that means you will be able to charge this car at home for less than a tenner. Now, if you are doing it at home, it will take up to 15 hours for the larger battery. It has 11 kilowatt AC onboard charging for your 3-phase charging, if that's an option at your job, for example. And look, 15 hours is a long time. You don't, unless you're doing a mad journey, need to charge that much in one day, obviously, and good luck to you getting the cheapest 9 cents kilowatt hour rate to sustain 15 hours. But essentially, you know, you get home at 6, half 6, you plug it in, and next morning you're thereabouts at 85-90%. On the battery front, so BYD will honour the battery. The car warranty is 6 years, the battery is 8 years or 200,000 kilometres, and they will guarantee a state of charge of 70%. That's not to say they're saying it'll be at 70% after 8 years. I'm not looking at BYD, but there are other brands out there, Kia being one, where there are vehicles on the road with 300,000-400,000 kilometres and they're pretty much at a 100% state of charge health. We're not comparing it with your phone. It's not the same. The batteries in these are the Blade batteries, cobalt and lead free, no lithium ion. It can survive the nail penetration test, no smoke, no explosions. They've tested it to 300 degrees Celsius. They've bent it, they've crushed it, no issues. And it's an LFP battery, so a little bit less energy dense, hence the larger battery capacity, but they're more favourable for repeated charging cycles, 200% and all that stuff. You probably know about it, just in case you don't, worth touching on. So lots of space, you know. As I said, I think the higher price, it can get a little bit expensive for some of the materials used. You know, a BMW, for example, will have a nicer interior. Would you get a BMW of this size for 60 grand at the top spec? Let's not forget, probably not. But let's see how this car drives, because there is a lot of weight. The top spec all-wheel drive is about 2.5 tonne, sort of 2.2 from memory for the entry level. These are not light cars. Good visibility all around from the panoramic camera. You can have 308 brake horsepower, or if you prefer, you can have 530 brake horsepower, probably more like 4 seconds to 60, and a motor that can spin at 23,000 revolutions per minute. It's the fastest RPM of any mass production motor on sale in the world today. And that's the thing about BYD, they just throw these staggering figures at you and you go, you built 500,000 cars? Like, it's a phenomenally big company, and as I keep saying, it's just very hard for us to kind of try and get our heads around the scale, the factories they're building. There is, of course, talk of these Chinese tariffs. Nothing has still really been decided yet. BYD will be at the somewhat lower end of the tariff band because they were a little bit more open to Europe poking around their business. I think for everyone's sake, it's crucial that these tariffs are not applied. You know, we need more affordable cars. BYD have sort of indicated that if there were tariffs, they would absorb them for now. But who knows what that actually means. In terms of damping, so it's best on a really good road where it firms up, or a poor road where it softens quite a bit. The problem with the damping setup is the in-between bit is a little bit just twitchy if you're on a poorer road surface. Now, I was hoping the handling of this car wouldn't be too floaty with all the talk of the battery cells being at one with the chassis of the car. There's still no getting away from the fact that it is a very heavy vehicle. Fast in a straight line, but in corners there's a lot of body roll. And that's a shame. At the same time, you don't want something so firm that nobody feels too good tipping around in this car. So it's a balancing act, but one that I'm not quite sure is on point just yet. Efficiency, they're talking sort of 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers to over 22 for the all-wheel drive. Again, there's a lot of power in this car. Let's lean it in now. Let's squeeze the throttle for starters, and it just shoots off. So the acceleration is fantastic. It's when you suddenly want to change direction. Let's zip into another lane now, last minute, like that. And yeah, it all just kind of struggles to deal with the weight. So Not so much of a fan of the handling as opposed to the straight line performance, which is very impressive, to be fair. Very impressed with the noise insulation. They spoke about the soundproof glass. It's very, very quiet. Really, really impressive. They say the steering should be sharper. Again, I don't know if that's definitely the case. It is a larger family SUV. It's a car that, has to transport people in comfort. It's not all about the driving dynamics, and it's important for me to kind of remind myself of that as well. It's not the whole ethos of the car. Is it comfortable? Is it quiet? Is it efficient? Can it take the family and do all the things that you need it to do? It absolutely can. The body roll is a little bit frustrating. I was definitely expecting better things from the presentation we got today, which really mentioned the car in terms of the structure of it, the battery being part of it, making it have a lower center of gravity, all that good stuff. That sounds amazing on paper. I'm not quite sure if the driving performance of that has actually been delivered. But it's, I think, a pretty good looking car. Very cheap to run, obviously, if you buy it. The indicators, that sounds like you've left lights on. Now, I don't know if that can be changed sound-wise. I haven't had enough time with the car, but that's a bit weird. Not what we're used to anyway. Brakes are good on this dual-motored version with all the brake horsepower. The front discs are drilled. Also, speaking of trying to keep things cool, the thermal management of the car has again been improved by BYD. So whether you need to cool the battery or heat up the battery, its optimum charging performance is at about 25 degrees Celsius. And it does say you won't get that peak charging speed. There's lots of variables, but one of them is the temperature of the battery, which is the case in all electric cars. Now on this good road, I like the body control. I like the damping on the car. It's firmish for, like, these are not small wheels in this car. It's just a shame they don't offer 18 for a comfort perspective. I'm very impressed with the sound control though. It is a very quiet, relaxing car to drive, particularly at lower speeds. So do let me know what you think. Is this a car that would get you into an EV? Is it the BYD you've been waiting for? They're launching 5 new models in Ireland in 2025. 5 models alone. It's quite impressive. And from an MDL perspective, they're just about to launch XPeng in Ireland as well, which is a separate company, nothing to do with BYD, but also impressive performance vehicles from China. They're not going away. Overall, good first impression of the new BYD Sealion 7. As I keep saying, we don't have Irish prices. That will also determine how impressive it is. I get the sense from MDL, who are the importer of BYD in Ireland, they'd love it to start at under €50,000, much like it is in Germany. The more expensive version, that is a lot of money. This was a company that really made an impact in the Irish market because they were undercutting everybody else. They're not really undercutting everyone else at the €60,000 mark. Hard for us in our part of the world to understand the scale of BYD. 110,000 engineers alone work in the company. How the architecture has changed in this car and their cars in the last 3 years has changed so much. So you will wonder, will this be obsolete technology in 3 years' time in terms of BYD and how fast they move? It's a comfortable car. The sound insulation, all the stuff makes it a comfortable car for your family. And if you have liked the Seal and been impressed by that, would this be your second car in the house? Maybe you want to move to a 2-car EV family. Certainly running costs will be impressive. The buying initial cost, perhaps not so much. And don't forget to add about €1,500 MDL delivery charges onto the price as well. So reasonably good to drive, plenty of space, great technology. It's just, have you got a budget for this as your next car? Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.